If you haven't been living under a rock, you might have heard about Kaiju number 8 and how it's taken the anime world by storm. Honestly, I really didn't know what to expect when I started this anime, but I've been very, very impressed with what's been going on. So Kaiju number 8 is a very interesting series. It's set in a world in which they have these monsters called Kaiju that regularly cause disasters. To give a good idea, it's kind of like early Fire Force, if you remember how Fire Force had a bunch of these monsters and they had people that had to put them out. And they're in this world, obviously it's in Japan, they have the highest rate of kaiju attacks in the world. In order to combat them, they established the anti-kaiju defense force, which is, literally a defense force of people that are fighting against these kaiju. We get introduced to the main character, Kafka Hibino. And honestly, I like Kafka, he's a decent MC. I gotta be really honest with you. We get to flashback to this girl, Mina Ashiro, and we come to find out that back in the day, they made this pact to basically, if they were gonna grow up and join the anti-kaiju defense force. And flash forward, it's the equivalent to my boy Kafka living like a random, 9 to 5. Like he literally cleans up kaiju poop. Like that is literally his job, in the first couple episodes and stuff like that. Meanwhile, Mina, I ain't gonna lie, Mina's low-key hard now. She got the hands. In fact, I think it's like the beginning of the first episode, we see her basically put a kaiju down, and I'm talking about a strong kaiju. Kafka Hibino meets this new recruit who's basically a part of the 9 to 5, mundane job that he has, named Ichikawa. And Ichikawa, I ain't gonna lie, Ichikawa's a real nigga. At first, I didn't think he was hard because he was low-key hating. He was like, oh, it wasn't really hate, honestly, but he came on saying like, oh, I never give up. That's my, not my ninja way. He's not Naruto, but, I never give up. Like that's the kind of man I am. That's like, what's going on throughout the day. But in the first episode, they're actually low-key bonding like of himself and Ichikawa, and it's like he kind of is mentoring him and like, oh, they're going through cleanup poop, and he's like, cool, well, he's basically taking him under his wing. And at the end of the episode, they run into a kaiju, and as you know, these niggas are not meant to fight kaiju. They're not those guys, and they basically get run up on and almost die. And in the time of them almost dying, we actually see Kafka tee up, and Kafka attacks the kaiju. Long story short, he's not Naruto. He doesn't end up killing the kaiju. Mina Ashiro actually comes and saves the day. But the most important thing that happens with that is Hibino basically has the motivation to say, I'm going to join the anti-kaiju defense force, and, I'm going to give it one last chance, because at this point in time, he's 30 years old. Like, he is literally damn near about to be 40, like the midlife crisis type thing. They pretty much said that this is his last chance to join the kaiju. I think it's like an age requirement of maybe like 33 or so. So if he fails this next time, it's cooked. He saves the day. He broke his leg or whatever, during the fight with the kaiju. And at the end of the episode, a kaiju goes in his mouth and essentially makes him half human, half kaiju, which I'm not gonna lie, really, really funny scene. If you haven't seen it, you should be on this video, but if you have seen it, it's probably one of the more funny scenes in the show. I think overall, I'd say that Kaiju number 8 is a really fun and unique show in the sense that you can see the serious themes and stuff going on, but it's definitely a show that you can enjoy, with friends and stuff like that. So I've really enjoyed it so far. But basically the whole show is, we see Kafka balancing being kaiju and being human, and we're kind of seeing him do that. And despite him being kaiju, and we know the whole point of the show is that niggas kill kaiju. So if you're a kaiju, they're gonna put you down, especially Mina Ashiro, because as we can see, a lot of characters in the show their lives have been messed up by kaiju, so no one really messes with kaiju, obviously. Despite that happening, Kafka's literally like, F that, I'm gonna join anti-kaiju defense force because that's what I said I'm gonna do. Like if I said if I wanna do it, I'm gonna do it. Kafka and Ichikawa in this other group of anti-kaiju recruits, and they're kind of training up against each other and stuff. And it's a really, really cool scene, and we're seeing different characters. Like there's one character who's basically an army nigga, so his stats, like his physical stats are insane. He's the strongest, he's the best physical, like he's the fastest. Then we got Kikuru Shinomoya, and I'm not gonna lie, I low-key hated this girl. Like, she's not even a bad character. It's not like a, I don't know, brulee or something. Yeah, it's not even like a character where she's just dislikable. It's just that she's, you ever have those like Mary Sue type characters where it's like, damn, you're so good at your craft that you're making me not like you. And she's low-key similar. So the cool thing about the whole kaiju, power scaling and power system is that they have these suits and these weapons that basically scan your attack power or your maximum combat ability, and essentially increase the weapon or the AP and the defense based off of that. So they're equipped with swords and blasters and stuff, and it's very clear that if you have that suit on and you have whatever percentage you're at, it increases it. So if you have a crazy gun and you're at like, let's say, a maximum power of like 10%, that gun's gonna be way better than a person with the same gun at 5%, which I think is a really cool dynamic, because it's a pretty linear power progression of, okay, I've done more push-ups and I've done more of this, and I can get stronger. But I think what's pretty interesting about that overall is I already told you there's a character in the show that has like the maximum stats, but they don't have the best unleashed combat power. That's Kikuro. Her combat power is insane. I don't know the exact number off head, but I think it was like 30 or so % at the beginning, and they actually made an emphasis to say that attack power is the strongest or the highest attack power among new recruits, and that's including Mina Ashura. It's kind of setting up that she might surpass Mina at some point in time, maybe, potentially, and stuff like that. So it's cool. We're still early on. I'm still early on in the series and stuff. Obviously, with the anime, I'm an anime watcher as of right now. We're seeing all these different characters and stuff, so you can kind of see the team kind of progressing, being made up. I think as of right now, it's kind of clear. Obviously, we know Kafka is on Kafka and Ishikawa. You know, they're kind of best men type thing, so they're staying together. And it's pretty clear if you've seen the most recent episodes that Kikuro is kind of gonna start messing with them. It's kind of clear she likes Kafka. You know what I'm saying? Shout out Kafka. He has a low-key motion, even though he's 30 years old, so he probably shouldn't pursue that or whatever. It's it's an interesting dynamic. I like the group. The team is pretty cool so far, and it's just a bunch of cool stuff going on. So I told Kafka's 30 years old, so it was a whole thing when he was taking the whole exam. There's like multiple parts of the exam. There was a physical part of the test that he got the worst scores. Like, he's 30, which means he's pushing 40. And as we all know, once you hit 40, your body don't move like it used to. Like, you can't jump out of bed and work out like you used to when you was 22 type thing. So he failed the test because of that. We failed the physical part of the test and stuff like that. Overall, I think his score, he actually failed the exam. He wasn't going to pass. Vice Captain Hashina, which is, the Vice Captain Samina, ended up basically vouching for him. He was like, while he's not the most physically inept in terms of fighting kaiju, his knowledge of beating kaiju is really, really unique, which I want to speak on as well. That's pretty cool. I do like how, the different types of main characters that we have. And, with Kafka, I don't think he's ever going to be a physically strong character unless he's in his kaiju form. But one thing that's kind of cool is that his whole thing is him being, I don't even know how long he was in his mundane kaiju cleaning, let's just call it like a kaiju cleanup job. I think it looks like he was at that joint for like 10 or so years. His knowledge of cleanup kaiju for so long has helped him basically be a kaiju encyclopedia, which is super useful when you're trying to kill kaiju, because it's basically, if you ever play like Horizon Zero Dawn, like you got to find the weak points of the kaiju to kill him. So that's been really cool. But yeah, Vice Captain Hashina basically stood up for him like, yo, he's really smart. He knows about the kaiju weaknesses. He's really able to figure that out on the fly. Like, we need him, or he's someone that I would take on my crew specifically. And at first I was kind of fucking with him, like, oh, that's tough. He looks a lot like Gin if you watch Bleach, so that's kind of funny. But we come to find out that his real reason, or one of the main reasons he did that, is because he wants to observe Kafka a little more. Because during the exam, or at least the kaiju battling exam portion, Kafka had to turn into his kaiju form in order to protect Kirikou. Luckily for Kafka and stuff, he didn't end up getting caught. We come to find out that the Vice Captain observed a secret reason why the Vice Captain basically vouched for Kafka was because during the test, Kafka turned into his kaiju form. And because of that, it's more of a thing where keep your friends close but your enemies closer type thing. So he basically said like, yeah, I'm watching you because it was a little sketch during the exam. Like, your combat power was the only ones that not only disappeared, but a new unknown combat power was, in the servers and stuff, and it was measured as one of the most powerful kaiju in existence, or of all time. So that's definitely something we're going to kind of see a lot more of. We're going to see how that interaction plays out. We've seen Mina and Kafka have a couple interactions. It's very, very slight. Like, it's almost like Mina low-key pretends she don't even remember Kafka, which is kind of crazy because they seem like they was day one besties back in the day. But I guess Kafka has to build that respect to Mina for her to kind of appreciate him as a kaiju or defense force member. That's really cool. So, well, that's understandable. But yeah, it's a fun show. Like, I definitely enjoy it. It's one of the more chiller series. You know what I'm saying? If you watch, like, sometimes with anime, it gets a little convoluted and it's too much stuff going on, but obviously we're in the beginning stages, and I kind of like the premise with everything so far. So I am interested. We've seen some cool things that have kind of some building pieces with the plot, like this. I don't want to spoil too much things that's going on, but we're kind of wondering, like, what is that kaiju that affected Kafka that made him half kaiju, half human? Like, there's this mastermind kaiju trying to kill Kafka. There's a bunch of stuff going on right now, but it's overall really, really fun. I've enjoyed the power system. It's been really cool. We're gonna see more about Kafka, more about the kaijus, because that's a big thing. I'm looking forward to seeing how the power system works out more. Like, we know they have like the blasters that, like I told you, are measured by your unleashed combat power, but they also have different like guns and different blasters and different weapons. Like, the Vice Captain doesn't really use a gun. His main method method of, you know, combat is a sword, which is tough. You know what I'm saying? He's from a long line of swordsmen, I guess. So that's tough. If you're a mid-range kaiju, you might want to stay away from, bro. But overall, it's pretty cool. Yeah, nah. Overall, Kaiju number 8. It's a fun anime. I'm trying to really get into my bag with watching and observing new anime and things like that. Trying to really spread my wings in that sense too. Yeah, so I'm trying to do that more. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about Kaiju number 8 if you guys have seen it. I think Kaiju number 8 is one of the more fun animes coming out. I want to say it's like a 2024 anime. I don't know what era it's from or whatever, but now Kaiju number 8's fire. But let me know if you guys like Kaiju number 8, if there's an anime that you think has a similar vibe to it. What are your thoughts on it, the main character, the plot, everything just overall that's going on. Let me know what you think of the series overall, but don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. On the road to 2,000 subs, so you know how it is. But yeah, that's all. So peace.